I believe it was the bear fight. Now we are here. So I think if we hit Q, okay, that doesn't show anything, but we can see that there's something back there, so that this bramble patch might be passable someday. We don't know how to pass it yet, but we know that it's there. So as we come in, we see that off to the side. We look, we try and do something with it. It's again a framing thing, and it's just like the rope wall that we saw earlier is, in the sense that it's this thing that we can do, but it doesn't. It's something that we know that we can probably do something with, but we can't do it yet. So it's in the back of our mind, and so whenever we get, say, the fire, I think it's like either fire arrows or a fire grenade, one of the two, we can come back here and then explore it, and then we get rewarded. So excuse me as I just grab some water. Devious, did you mention? I saw a comment from you about biologist. I didn't catch it because it vanished a little too quickly. So, did not consult a biologist on this bramble patch. Again, just for clarification, just in case I didn't make it, I don't work for Crystal Dynamics. I don't work for Square Enix. I'm just a dude who makes levels and is a level designer, and I like talking about level design. So we see this one bramble patch. We come around. Oh wait, we see another one. We see this, which stands out. So it stands out, which means that it's probably something that we can explore or interact with. And the way that this is set up is, since it's dark, since it's dark and the light is only coming from us, if we want to see something clearer, we need to walk to it. So walk through there, walk through this, we get close enough to it, and then we can collect from this. And this gives us, I believe, like flint of some sort, magnesite, which we can use later. So this is one of those things with level design and lighting that kind of come into play together, because we know that the player isn't going to be able to see things far away very well at a distance. We know that we can put things up close, and that also the player is going to need to get close to actually see what they're going to need to do. Explore, and then one more piece of lore.
Learned all I can from the car.
I'm not going to be going through those, so we're gonna just run around the wall again. One last one. In either direction that we go, if we run around the whole outside, we're going to actually see everything. It'll be hard for us to miss because the ore, it shines brightly in our light, which is a nice little giveaway that, hey, this is something you can interact with. Yeah, she has multiple different glow sticks. I think later on it actually becomes green, but that's later in the game, and we definitely won't be getting that to that today. So again, we're now more open world right now, and we're doing a lot more exploration. So this is where a lot of non-linear level design comes in, and more of the open world level design. And this is where we'll start relying on the objective system a bit more, which at this point, when you have an open world game, you really do need to have there's only so much your level can do, and you do have to start relying on other systems, which isn't bad. It just depends on the implementation of that system. So I'm intentionally going around just to explore a little bit here and see if there's anything else that I want to mention. I don't think so. Consumables like this, these aren't randomly placed. These are intentionally placed by designers, and there's probably somebody who deals with this type of stuff specifically at really large companies. But those are specifically placed to help guide the player around. So if you're making an open world game like this, or a game where You don't necessarily have a clear objective, kind of like what we have right now, or you don't have, what's the word I'm trying to think of? You don't have a clear objective or a clear landmark, then you can use something like this.
Might be able to make something with all this.
You can use consumables or gathering points or interaction nodes. I was playing Guild Wars 2 last night with their brand new expansion. I'm a huge fan of MMOs, which are obviously all open world and all have their own type of level design. But there was a portion where I had to go through and basically listen to a story, but I had to follow this one NPC. And well, I didn't have to follow this NPC. I had to go to this one area, but I didn't know how to get there. And this one NPC was leading me to it. So I just kept following this NPC instead of exploring around. So there's a bunch of... So that's just kind of like one example of what you could do in an open world if you need to get somebody directly to where... to a very specific spot, and you don't want them to necessarily get lost. So this is where I need to make some poison arrows. Do I already have a max amount of poison arrows? Yes, we're gonna make some normal arrows. Or I need one more of those, I think. That is fine, that's fine. So this is kind of the least boring part. Roads would serve that purpose too, as Devious points out. Yes, it does depend though on the type of game. Obviously, roads in the middle of the Siberian forest in the snow aren't going to play in as well in the middle of the backwoods, but if you're doing an urban game, you know, like or like GTA, just they straight up tell you how to get around to where you want to go. So in this case, it doesn't matter too much for me what I want to take. I definitely want that, and I definitely want this. Elder Scrolls 2, yeah. Oh, yeah, so Elder Scrolls would be a game where roads would actually make sense. MMOs have that. In this particular case that I mentioned, there wouldn't have been a way to do roads. So with open world games like that, you have to be really... that's kind of an art thing, but you also want to make sure that you include something like that. As if anything, it's going to be a basic guide for the player. It's almost like a map, except that they can see. I'm the type of person, I'm the type of designer who really believes in trying to put as many things into the world and less into the UI. It depends on... It really does depend, though, on the type of game that you're making, but in my opinion, I try and put as many things into the world as I can and try and minimize the UI. Most of the games that I've made, that I've been lead designer on, I have basically no UI whatsoever for that reason. So, bit of a story thing here. So, I guess one last time here. My name's Joe. I'm a level designer. I've been working on level design for about 3 years now. Well, I've been working professionally in level design for 3 years. I've been doing level design since 2010 or so. I've worked on games like Black Mesa, the Half-Life 1 reimagining. I also have work that is in Team Fortress 2. It's shipped with the base game. I've also been doing a lot of I've done a lot of VR stuff. So Callum, if Callum's still in here, that's how I met Callum, also known as Philanthropy, was through VR games.
We found another camp up here. Fire was still warm. They can't be
Okay, so here is this zone that I was talking about earlier, and I said that these bushes were going to be important. We explored this twice, we've walked through this twice, and we haven't had this pop up yet because we haven't had a need to. So, We can't go this way, as we already decided, because there's that wall. And I will loot this guy really quick. But we are forced to go slowly through here. That deep snow is intentionally put there so that we go slowly through it, and we are forced to be concealed, and so we don't accidentally run into that guy and then, you know, kind of ruin the experience, because then we're panicking. We haven't, this is literally like the second or third, fourth time that we've had to do combat. It's not really something that we're going to be comfortable with. So by making it so that we slow down, it takes time for us to go through that, and it gives us enough reaction time to stop and make sure we don't get tagged by that guy, and then we take him out when he comes through. Alright, so this is where this is where we get a bit of a divergence on gameplay styles. We can do stealth, or you can do stealth, or you can brute force it. This is your choice. And you, as the level designer, you need to accommodate for both those play styles. So in this case, if we're going to go brute force it, we need to have cover, we need to have places for concealment so that we can take cover and get away from enemies, we need to have places that we can attack them, good vantage points, and things like that. For the stealth route, which I'm going to try for a little bit here, I'm usually terrible with stealth, we have the high road, which goes through the trees, and obviously the guy didn't see us, so that must mean that this is a pretty stealthy way to go. And so we have that also, but we can also, on the fly, I think if we stay here, we'll be okay. Oh, never mind. We cannot stay here. But we can jump around and conceal ourselves. Unfortunately, I am on the easiest mode, so I'm not too worried about dying that much. But if I do die, oops. I don't know the cheat codes for this. I know some people who have done similar Let's Plays like this where they talk about the design. That guy's still up over there? No. Guy's over there. They try and like enable God mode so they can actually just straight up talk and not have to worry about dying. I don't have the cheat codes for this, so I don't know how to do that. Alright, so now we've cleared it out, we can go straight back into stealth. Even though no one's gone, we can still stealth. Hide in the bush, Laura, hide in the bush. And now we have to go back to over where we were, which was over in that direction. We can't really see it right now. But since the settings changed a little bit, it's a little bit darker into the night. It's a little bit darker into the night, and we're now back to lighting. This isn't phantom lighting because we know that there's a light source here, for those who are wondering. But we know that this area right here is going to be important and that we need to keep focusing on it. And if you look at the area around it, it's open. It's almost circular if you kind of look at it from here. It's kind of a big open circular area. There's little perches on all of these little areas over there, all just adding to like the architectural context clues, saying this is an area that's going to be important and that we should remember. And since we know that there was enemies nearby, we need to make sure that we are very careful when moving through it. Which, knowing me, I won't be careful at all, but anything to help reinforce teaching things. Yes, and since it's also alone, it does also help us see, hey, you know, maybe there could be other people around.
A crown from one of the princes of Kiev.
So one of the things I kind of mentioned earlier was flow and pacing. Something that they did here was we started at the campsite up over there. We could have gone in multiple directions, but there was, I believe, a patrol passing. down the, like, there was 3 ways that we could have gone. There was immediately left, which was the route that we've taken right here, and then there was 2 other routes that we could have taken that branched off from a second initial branch. But there was a enemy passing by at that time, so we knew that. So that kind of forced us to not actually go that way, even though we could have. But if we did, we would have had to face those guys. And so even though we was taking the longer route, we would have had to face more people. And we wouldn't have had the stealth, but we probably would have had more reward. So it was kind of like a higher risk because there's more people, but you probably would have had a lot more higher reward. In this case, I took the direction that they initially intended for us to go, and went from there. Okay, come on, you can walk across that, but just jump up here. Just check, make sure there's no one else coming, because again, we're moving in a circle, so I kind of want to stay out of that light. We need to get up there again. Yep. And scramble up this again. So this is the area that we were at before, and now we know the bear, and we know about the bear. We know that it's going to be there, and we know that either we are going to have to run through it or we're going to have to fight it. And in this case, we're going to be using the poison arrows to take out the bear. Now, we're going to see if we can actually take out this bear in 4 minutes. Or a little after. But we'll find out. Bear's still there. So now we actually have to defeat the bear. And using everything else we know, that was the path that we took last time, collapsed on in. And it's giving us a bit of time to actually sit and wait before we actually have to face the bear. Bethesda has a term for this called sandwich time. It is literally, I find it's a really cute name. Sandwich time is basically time given to the player at the start of a zone or at an area or at a boss fight that if the player wants to get up and like use the bathroom or make a sandwich, they can. And that's why it's called sandwich time. They use that a lot specifically in Skyrim. So if you start, like if you go play the dungeons in Skyrim, you can load into like a new portion of that dungeon and just stand there. And 99% of the time, nothing's going to bother you. So we need to move through here, as highlighted by, we knew that from before. We knew that again, and they just keep reinforcing, we gotta go through that. Dark Souls kind of has that. It depends. Some areas do, some areas don't. So there's the bear. And we're gonna run. Okay, this is gonna be tough. I should be dodging through this, so this is just gonna be a fight that I'm not a huge fan of, and I don't think we'll actually get through it for it. But kind of just a quick touch on the arenas of like boss arenas. There's a couple of ways of doing boss arenas, and the most basic of them is what you see here, which is just a basic circle with very minimal things inside of it. You see that a lot in like MMOs, so if you play Final Fantasy 14 or oops. Scrambled. If you play Final Fantasy 14, all of their arenas are just basically circles or squares. Very simple arenas because they want you to focus on the game mechanics. Later on, we're going to have a couple of quote-unquote bosses that are not in those types of arenas. They're a little bit more more abstract looking, and those play into the mechanics. And we'll talk about those when we actually get there. So with the death of the bear, I think this is going to be a great time because it's 2 o'clock. It's a great time to end it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If anyone has any questions before we head off, go ahead and ask them about level design. If not, you can catch the VOD of this. I'm going to break it up into pieces, so it's going to be like 20 minutes stuff. like 20-minute pieces. They'll go up on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/c/frozenart. It's the same thing as this caffeine as my caffeine channel, and I will probably link to it in there. You can also follow me on Twitter at FrozenR. So if you have any questions about level design, my direct messages are open. So just go ahead and ask. Go ahead and ask there, and I will do my best to answer them.